I collapsed on a Tuesday, face first into a pile of gravel, hard hat rolling away, the California sun burning the back of my neck. I was 50 years old, working construction for $23 an hour, and my body had finally given up. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was someone shouting, "Call 911! He's not breathing!" 2 years ago, I was a vice president at a Silicon Valley tech company. I had a corner office, a stock portfolio, and a $6.7 million mansion in the hills. I had a wife who told me she loved me, and 3 children who called me dad. Now, I had nothing. A studio apartment in a bad part of Oakland, a rusted pickup truck with 220,000 miles on it, $12,000 in credit card debt that grew every month, and a body that was breaking down from 14-hour shifts carrying lumber and mixing concrete. My ex-wife had taken everything: the house, the savings, the retirement accounts, primary custody of our 3 kids, Ethan, Olivia, and Noah, who she had systematically turned against me over the past 2 years. "You'll die alone and broke," Claudia had said the day the divorce was finalized. She was smiling when she said it. That cold, satisfied smile of a woman who had gotten exactly what she wanted. She was right about the broke part, and as I lay unconscious in that gravel pile, she was almost right about the dying part too. But she was wrong about the alone. She just didn't know it yet. I woke up to fluorescent lights and the steady beep of heart monitors. Hospital room, white walls, white sheets, white ceiling. The smell of antiseptic and institutional food. I'd been here before, or rooms like it, visiting friends, attending to family emergencies, but I'd never been the one in the bed. A woman in a white coat stood at the foot of my bed, studying a chart with an expression I couldn't quite read. She was in her early 40s, dark hair pulled back, a stethoscope around her neck. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Dr. Priya Sharma. How are you feeling?" Like I got hit by a truck. My voice was, my throat raw. "What happened?" "You collapsed at your job site. Severe dehydration, exhaustion, elevated stress hormones. Your body essentially shut down." She set down the chart. "You've been unconscious for 14 hours. 14 hours? We've been running tests, standard protocol for cases like yours." She paused. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe, or curiosity. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to ask you something. It may seem strange, but it's important." "Okay. Who are your biological parents?" The question caught me off guard. I'd expected her to ask about my medical history, my diet, my work conditions, not this. "I was adopted," I said. "My parents, my adoptive parents, were Frank and Dorothy Mitchell. They passed away years ago. I never knew my birth parents." Dr. Sharma nodded slowly. She walked to the door, checked the hallway, then closed it. The click of the latch seemed unnaturally loud. "What's going on?" I asked. "Is something wrong with me?" She returned to my bedside, pulled up a chair, sat down so we were at eye level. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm also a geneticist. I run a research program here at the hospital that studies inherited diseases and genetic markers. As part of your blood work, we ran your DNA through several databases to check for hereditary conditions, and we found something unexpected." She took a breath. "Your genetic profile matches an entry in a private medical research database. The entry was made by a man named Harold Ashworth." The name meant nothing to me. "Who's Harold Ashworth?" "The founder of Ashworth Industries. Tech, aerospace, defense contracts. One of the wealthiest men in California." "Never heard of him. What does this have to do with me? Dr. Chararma leaned closer. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Mr. Mitchell, Harold Ashworth was your biological father. He spent 49 years searching for you, and when he died last year, he left everything, his entire fortune, to you. I stared at her, certain I was still unconscious, certain this was some kind of fever dream brought on by dehydration and exhaustion. That's impossible. I'm a construction worker. I'm broke. Sir. She placed a hand on my arm. I've confirmed the DNA match 3 times. There's no question. Harold Ashworth was your father and his fortune. She looked me directly in the eyes. Sir, you're worth $3 billion. The next few hours were a blur. Dr. Chararma brought in a hospital administrator, who brought in a lawyer, who brought in another lawyer. They showed me documents, certificates, legal filings. They explained things I couldn't process. Trusts, estates, inheritance protocols, DNA verification procedures. Harold Ashworth had died in 2023. His will had contained a provision that stunned his family, his board of directors, and his lawyers. I leave my entire estate, all assets, properties, investments, and holdings to my firstborn son, Warren, born in 1974, to Margaret Collins. If Warren is found after my death, the estate shall be held in trust until his identity is verified through DNA testing. For the past year, the Ashworth estate lawyers had been searching for me. They had hired private investigators, genealogists, DNA specialists. They had come close several times, tracing my adoptive parents, finding records of my birth, but always hit dead ends. What they hadn't anticipated was that Harold Ashworth himself had prepared a backup plan. Years ago, he had donated his DNA to a medical research database, the same database Dr. Chararma's program used. He had done it hoping that someday, somehow, his son might be identified through routine medical testing. And that's exactly what happened. My collapse at the construction site had led to blood work, which had led to DNA analysis, which had led to a match in a database, which had led to 6 words that changed everything. Sir, you're worth $3 billion. $3.2 billion to be precise. That's what the lawyers told me when the initial shock wore off. The Ashworth estate included Ashworth Industries, stock valued at $1.88 billion. Real estate holdings worth $620 million. Investment portfolios totaling $540 million. Art, collectibles, and personal property worth $240 million. All of it mine. If the DNA test confirmed what everyone already knew, the DNA test was performed the next day. A simple cheek swab compared against samples from Harold Ashworth, preserved by his estate. The results came back in 48 hours. 99.9% match. I was Harold Ashworth's son, and I was now one of the wealthiest men in California. Let me tell you about my life before that hospital room. My name is Warren Mitchell. I was born in 1974, though I didn't know the circumstances of my birth until very recently. I was raised by Frank and Dorothy Mitchell in Columbus, Ohio. Good people, kind people who never told me I was adopted. I found out when I was 18, going through my mother's papers after her death. A birth certificate with a different name, adoption records, a letter from a lawyer mentioning a private arrangement. I didn't pursue it. Frank was still alive then, and I didn't want to hurt him by digging into a past he'd clearly wanted to keep buried. After he died, I thought about searching for my birth parents. But life got in the way. College, career, marriage, children. Always something more urgent than the mystery of where I came from. I moved to California after graduating from Ohio State. Got a job at a tech company during the dot-com boom. Worked my way up from entry-level engineer to vice president over 20 years. Made good money. Built a good life. I met Claudia Hayes in 2000 at a company event. She was 22, a marketing assistant, beautiful and ambitious and full of dreams. I was 26, already climbing the corporate ladder, looking for someone to share the journey with. We married in 2002. Ethan came along in 2004, Olivia in 2007, Noah in 2010. We bought progressively larger houses as my salary grew. First a condo, then a townhouse, then a proper house in the suburbs, and finally, in 2018, the mansion. $6.7 million, 6 bedrooms, a pool, a view of the valley that looked like something from a magazine. I thought it was the culmination of everything I'd worked for. I thought I had made it. What I didn't realize was that Claudia had been waiting. The layoff came in 2021. Company restructuring. My entire division eliminated. 47 years old, and suddenly I was unemployed for the first time in my adult life. I thought I'd find something quickly. I had experience, connections, a track record of success. But the tech industry had changed. They wanted young people now, cheaper, more adaptable, willing to work 80-hour weeks. A middle-aged VP with a big salary history was a liability, not an asset. Months passed, interviews that went nowhere, rejections that piled up. My savings started to dwindle as I continued paying the mortgage, the car payments, the private school tuition. Claudia's patience lasted about 6 months. "I didn't sign up for this," she said one night. "I didn't marry an unemployed middle-aged man who can't provide for his family." "I'm trying, Claudia. The market is tough right now." "Try harder, or I'll find someone who can." She filed for divorce in 2022. Her lawyer was a shark, one of the most expensive divorce attorneys in California, paid for by money I later learned she'd been secretly siphoning from our accounts for years. My lawyer was a friend of a friend, cheap because I couldn't afford better, incompetent because you get what you pay for. The settlement was a massacre. Claudia got the house, got primary custody of all 3 children, got alimony payments that would look me for years, got half my retirement accounts that had already been decimated by a year of unemployment. I got nothing. Nothing except $12,000 in credit card debt and a studio apartment in a building that smelled like cigarettes and regret. "You'll die alone and broke," Claudia said. And for a while, it looked like she was right. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the children. Ethan was 18 when the divorce finalized, old enough to choose which parent to live with. He chose Claudia. Or rather, he chose the mansion, the lifestyle, the comfort he'd grown up with. I don't blame him. He was young. He didn't understand what was happening. Olivia and Noah didn't have a choice. Claudia got in primary custody, and she used it to systematically poison them against me. "Your father abandoned us," she told them. "He was too proud to fight for custody. He doesn't really love you. If he did, he'd still be living with us." It wasn't true. I had fought as hard as I could with the resources I had. But a bad lawyer against a good lawyer is no fight at all. And by the time the dust settled, the narrative was set. Dad abandoned us. Dad doesn't care. Dad chose his pride over his family. I tried to maintain contact. Called every week, sent birthday cards, requested visitation. But Claudia made it difficult. Always a scheduling conflict, always an excuse. And the kids themselves grew cold. Short answers, canceled visits, eventually silence. By the time I collapsed at that construction site, I hadn't spoken to any of my children in 8 months. 8 months of silence from the 3 people I loved most in the world. That's what Claudia had taken from me. Not just money. Money can be replaced. She had taken my children, and that, I thought, could never be undone. I was wrong, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The story of Harold Ashworth came out in pieces over the following weeks. His lawyers told me some of it. His widow, Eleanor, told me more. And the documents he'd left behind, letters, journals, legal filings, filled in the rest. Harold Ashworth had been born in 1945, the son of a factory worker and a school teacher. He had worked his way through college, gotten an engineering degree, and started a small electronics company in 1968. By 1974, that company had grown into Ashworth Industries, and Harold was already a millionaire. That same year, he met Margaret Collins. Margaret was 26, a secretary at Ashworth Industries. She was smart, kind, beautiful, everything Harold's wife was not. They began an affair. It was wrong. Harold knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop himself. When Margaret got pregnant, Harold offered to leave his wife, to marry Margaret, to give their child a proper home. Margaret refused. "I won't be the woman who breaks up a family," she told him. "I'll have this baby and raise it myself. You can be part of its life if you want, but I won't be your mistress, and I won't be your second wife." Harold respected her decision, even though it broke his heart. He set up a trust fund for the baby, for me, arranged to support Margaret financially, planned to be a father even if he couldn't be a husband. But Margaret died giving birth. Complications during delivery, massive hemorrhaging. By the time the doctors realized how serious it was too late. She was gone, and I was alone. Harold wanted to claim me, wanted to raise me as his son, but his wife Victoria found out about the affair and the baby and threatened to destroy him. "You acknowledge that child, and I'll take everything," she said. "The company, the house, your reputation. I'll tell the world what kind of man you really are." Victoria Ashworth came from old money. She had connections, lawyers, influence. Harold was wealthy, but he wasn't untouchable. Not yet. And he had another son to think about. Richard, born in 1970, just 4 years old. He made a choice. The wrong choice, he would later say. But the only choice that seemed possible at the time. He arranged for me to be adopted by Frank and Dorothy Mitchell. Good people, friends of Margaret's family who couldn't have children of their own. He set up a trust fund in my name to be released when I turned 21. He hired investigators to watch over me, to report back on my progress, to ensure I was safe and happy. And he spent the next 49 years trying to find a way to acknowledge me without destroying everything else. Harold's first wife, Victoria, died in 1995. He remarried 2 years later. Ella Lehner, a kind woman who knew about me from the beginning. Together they continued the search, hired new investigators, pursued new leads, but the adoption records had been sealed. Frank and Dorothy had moved several times, changed their names slightly, covered their tracks. Whether intentionally or not, I'll never know. And I, as an adult, had never thought to look for my birth parents. The trail went cold and cold. It stayed. In his later years, Harold grew desperate. He knew his time was running out. He changed his will repeatedly, always keeping the same core provision. Everything goes to Warren if he's found. And then, in a stroke of either genius or desperation, he donated his DNA to a medical research database. "If my son ever gets sick," he told Eleanor, "if he ever ends up in a hospital where they run genetic tests, maybe they'll find a match. Maybe they'll trace it back to me." It was a long shot, a Hail Mary pass from a dying man. But it worked. The transition was overwhelming. One week, I was a construction worker with $12,000 in debt. The next week, I was sitting in a conference room at Ashworth Industries headquarters, surrounded by lawyers and executives who kept calling me Sir. The estate had been held in trust for the past year, managed by a team of professionals who had expected the heir search to take years, maybe decades. When I appeared, verified by DNA, confirmed by documentation, they were stunned. We had almost given up, the lead attorney admitted. Another few months, and we would have begun the process of distributing the estate according to the secondary provisions, which were charitable donations, endowments. The company shares would have gone to Richard. Richard Ashworth, my half-brother, the legitimate son, the one who had grown up with the family name, the fortune, the expectations. I was nervous to meet him, expected resentment, hostility, maybe even legal challenges. This man had spent his entire life believing he was Harold's only heir. Now, a stranger had appeared and taken everything. But Richard surprised me. "I knew about you," he said when we finally met. His office at Ashworth Industries was enormous. Corner windows overlooking San Francisco, artwork on the walls, the trappings of obscene wealth. Dad told me when I was 30, showed me pictures, explained why he'd made the choices he made. "You're not angry." "Angry?" Richard laughed, a bitter sound. "I was furious. For years I resented you, this phantom brother who had somehow stolen my father's heart without ever being present. And now," he was quiet for a moment. Now I'm 54 years old. I've run this company for 2 decades. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And I've watched my father die with regret on his face. Regret that he never got to meet you, never got to explain, never got to make things right." He stood, extended his hand. "I'm not going to challenge the will, Warren. This is what Dad wanted, and honestly, I'm tired. I've been CEO for 20 years. I'd like to step back, focus on my family, maybe actually enjoy some of this money before I'm too old to appreciate it." I shook his hand. "What does that mean for the company?" "It means I'd like you to take over." "Not immediately. You'll need time to learn the business, understand the industry. But eventually, you're Harold, Ashworth's firstborn son. You should be running Harold Ashworth's company." It was too much. All of it. The money, the power, the responsibility. But it was also, I realized, exactly what I needed. A purpose, a direction, a reason to get up in the morning. I had lost everything, and now I had been given a chance to build something new. I wasn't going to waste it. Claudia found out 2 weeks after the inheritance was announced. The story had made national news. Mystery heir discovered for billionaire's fortune. And my face was plastered across every media outlet in the country. The construction worker who became a billionaire. The adopted son who found his birth family. The ultimate rags to riches story. She called me for the first time in months. "Warren." Her voice was different now. Softer, sweeter. The voice she used when she wanted something. "I saw the news. I can't believe it. This is amazing." "What do you want, Claudia?" "I want to talk about us, about the children. I think we made a mistake, ending things the way we did." "A mistake?" We were both under stress. The layoff, the financial pressure, it brought out the worst in us. But now that things are different, now that I'm worth $3 billion. Silence on the line. "Then, that's not what I meant." "Yes, it is. That's exactly what you meant." I kept my voice calm. I had spent 2 years being angry at this woman, being hurt by her, being destroyed by her. but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing that anymore. You took my children, Claudia. You poisoned them against me. You told them I abandoned them when you knew I was working 14-hour days just to make the alimony payments. Warren, I can explain. No, you can't, and you're not going to. I paused. My lawyers will be in touch about the custody arrangement. I'm filing for a modification. You can't do that. The settlement was final. The settlement was based on financial circumstances that no longer exist. I can provide for my children now better than you can, and I intend to. Warren, please. Goodbye, Claudia. I hung up. It felt good. Better than I expected. 2 years of pain, 2 years of humiliation, 2 years of being made to feel worthless. And now, finally, I had the power to change things. I was going to use it. The custody modification hearing was held in December 2024. My lawyers were the best money could buy. A team of family law specialists who had never lost a case. They presented evidence of Claudia's manipulation. Text messages where she coached the children to reject me. Financial records showing she had hidden assets during the divorce. Testimony from therapists who confirmed the children had been subjected to parental alienation. Claudia's lawyer tried to argue that my sudden wealth was disorienting for the children, that maintaining stability with their mother was more important than reuniting with a father who had been absent. The judge wasn't impressed. Mr. Mitchell wasn't absent by choice, she said. He was systematically excluded from his children's lives by their mother. The evidence of parental alienation is overwhelming. I'm granting the petition for modification. I got joint custody, shared time with all 3 children, the right to be part of their lives again. When I walked out of that courtroom, I called Ethan. He answered on the second ring. Dad. Hey, buddy. I know it's been a while. I know things have been complicated, but I'd really like to see you, all 3 of you, if you're willing. A long pause, then quietly. I saw the news about the inheritance, about who your real father was. Yeah, that was unexpected. Mom told us you didn't care about us, that you'd rather work construction than fight for custody. But I looked up the court records after the news broke. I saw how many times you petitioned for more visitation, how many times she blocked it. My throat tightened. I never stopped trying, Ethan. I never stopped loving any of you. I know that now. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Dad. I should have known. I should have asked more questions instead of just believing. You don't have to apologize. You were a kid. You trusted your mother. That's normal. Can we start over? Me and Olivia and Noah? Can we be a family again? I was crying now. Didn't try to hide it. That's all I've ever wanted, son. That's all I've ever wanted. The reunion happened on Christmas Day, 2024. I rented a house in Lake Tahoe. Nothing too extravagant, just a cabin with enough bedrooms for everyone. Ethan flew in from college. Olivia and Noah came with the social worker who was monitoring the new custody arrangement. When I opened the door and saw all 3 of them standing on the porch, Ethan at 20, tall and serious, Olivia at 17, her mother's beauty but her father's eyes, Noah at 14, gangly and awkward and growing up too fast. I couldn't speak. I just opened my arms and they stepped into them. We stayed like that for a long time, the 4 of us, crying and holding each other in the cold mountain air. I missed you, Noah mumbled into my chest. I'm sorry I didn't answer your calls. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Mom said you didn't want to talk to us, but you kept calling. I saw the missed calls on my phone. I should have answered. You're here now. That's what matters. Olivia pulled back, wiping her eyes. Is it true about the money? About your real dad? It's true. All of it. So, you're like a billionaire now? Apparently. She laughed, a wet, surprised sound. That's so weird. My dad is a billionaire. My construction worker dad, who used to pack my lunch with little notes in the bag. I still would if you'd let me. She hugged me again. I might take you up on that. We spent a week in that cabin cooking together, watching movies, talking about everything and nothing. The children told me about their lives, school, friends, dreams. I told them about the grandfather they never knew. The fortune that had appeared out of nowhere, the plans I was making for the future. It wasn't perfect. The wounds from 2 years of separation wouldn't heal overnight. There were awkward silences, moments of tension, times when old resentment surfaced. But we were together. That was enough. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a family again. 2 years have passed since I collapsed at that construction site. I'm 52 now, living in a house that's much too large for me. A state in Napa Valley that Harold Ashworth bought 30 years ago and never had the heart to sell. It has 12 bedrooms, a vineyard, and a view that takes my breath away every morning. I've learned to run a company. Not alone. I have Richard, who agreed to stay on as chairman emeritus, and a team of executives who know the business far better than I ever will. But I found my place. Strategy, vision, the big picture. That's where I contribute. Ashworth Industries is thriving. Our stock price has doubled since I took over, partly due to market conditions, partly due to new initiatives I've championed. We're investing in clean energy, sustainable manufacturing, technologies that will shape the next century. Harold would be proud, I think. Eleanor tells me he would be. My children are doing well. Ethan graduated from college last spring. He's working at Ashworth Industries now. Entry level, no special treatment, just like any other new hire. He'll earn his way up, or he won't. That's how I want it. Olivia is in her freshman year at Stanford pre-med. She wants to be a doctor, like the woman who changed our lives with 6 whispered words. I want to help people the way Dr. Chararma helped us. She told me, I've never been prouder. Noah is 16, a junior in high school. He lives with me full-time now. His choice endorsed by the family court. He's discovered a passion for coding, for building things with computers. Sometimes I watch him work and I see Harold, the grandfather he never met, young and hungry and convinced he could change the world. Maybe he will. As for Claudia, she struggled. The divorce modification clawed back some of the assets she'd taken. The alimony payment stopped when my financial situation changed. Her reputation in our social circle crumbled when the truth about her manipulation came out. Last I heard, she was living in a modest apartment, working as a real estate agent. I don't wish her ill. I don't wish her anything at all. She's simply not part of my life anymore, and I'm okay with that. I visit Harold's grave sometimes. He's buried in a private cemetery in Moraine County, next to Margaret, my birth mother. Eleanor told me he had her remains moved there after Victoria died. He wanted them to be together in death, even though they never got that chance in life. I stand between their headstones and try to imagine them. Young, passionate, making a choice that would echo for 50 years. Margaret, brave enough to walk away from a man who loved her because she wouldn't break up a family. Harold, spending half a century trying to find the son he was forced to give up. They never got to meet me, never got to hold me, watch me grow, see who I became. But they gave me something anyway. A legacy, a fortune, And most importantly, the knowledge that I was wanted. That even when I didn't know where I came from, someone out there was looking for me. Someone out there loved me. I wish I could have known you. I tell them, both of you, I wish I could have said thank you. The wind rustles the leaves, the sun warms my face, and I imagine somewhere they're listening. Dr. Priya Sharma and I have stayed in touch. She's become a friend. Oddly enough, the woman who walked into my hospital room to discuss blood work and ended up changing my entire life. I've made a substantial donation to her research program. Genetic testing for adopted individuals seeking their birth families. Do you know how many people are in your situation? She told me once. Adopted, no information about their medical history, no way to find their biological relatives. Your story could help thousands of them. So, we're building something. The Mitchell Ashworth Foundation for Genetic Reunification, a nonprofit that helps adopted individuals connect with birth families through DNA testing at no cost. It's not enough. It will never be enough to repay the debt I owe to chance and circumstance and a doctor who happened to run my blood work through the right database. But it's something I think about that construction site sometimes. The gravel pile where I collapsed, the hard hat rolling away, the California sun burning the back of my neck. I was dying. Maybe not literally. The doctor said I would have recovered, even without treatment. But spiritually, emotionally, in every way that mattered, I had given up, had accepted Claudia's prophecy as truth. You'll die alone and broke. I believed her. That was the saddest part. I had internalized her cruelty, made it my own, convinced myself that I deserved the life I was living. But life had other plans. Sometimes the moment you hit rock bottom is the moment everything changes. Sometimes the collapse that nearly destroys you is actually saving you, forcing you into a hospital, into a doctor's care, into a chain of events that leads to somewhere you never imagined. I don't believe in fate. Don't believe some cosmic force arranged all of this for my benefit. But I believe in second chances. And I believe that no matter how dark things get, no matter how certain you are that it's over, there's always the possibility of something unexpected. A phone call, a blood test, 6 whispered words. You never know what's coming next. That's terrifying. And it's also beautiful. It's Sunday morning now. I'm sitting on the porch of my Napa Valley estate watching the sunrise over the vineyard. Noah is inside making breakfast. He's become quite the cook, actually. Ethan and Olivia are coming for dinner tonight. In my hand is a cup of coffee. Good coffee. Not the instant stuff I drank during those dark years, but something rich and smooth. The kind of thing I never thought I'd be able to afford. I'm 52 years old. I have $3 billion, a company that bears my father's name, and 3 children who love me. And I'm grateful. Not for the money. Money is just paper, just numbers on a screen. I'm grateful for the second chance, for the opportunity to rebuild, for the knowledge that even at 50, even when everything seems lost, life can still surprise you. You'll die alone and broke. Claudia said she was wrong. So very, very wrong. Thank you for listening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who has lost everything and thinks it's over. Someone who has been told they're worthless and started to believe it. Someone who is 50 or 60 or 70 and thinks their best days are behind them. They're not. The best days might be just around the corner. You never know when a doctor will close the door, lean in close, and whisper 6 words that change everything. You never know when the collapse will lead to the comeback. You never know when the end of one story is actually the beginning of another. Keep going. Keep hoping. Keep believing. Because somewhere out there, something unexpected is waiting. And it might just be worth $3 billion. Noah just called from the kitchen. "Dad, breakfast is ready." I set down my coffee, stand up from the porch chair, walk inside to join my son. My son. My children. My family. The fortune is nice. The company is fulfilling. The houses and the cars and the trappings of wealth are pleasant enough. But this moment, this ordinary Sunday morning, this breakfast with my son, this is what matters. This is what I almost lost. This is what I fought to get back. This is what I'll never take for granted again. What are we having? Pancakes? Your recipe? My recipe? Noah grins. The one you used to make when I was a kid, before everything went wrong. I found it written on an index card in one of your old boxes. I look at the plate. Pancakes shaped like animals. A bear, a rabbit, a duck. The same shapes I used to make for my children a decade ago, before the layoff, before the divorce, before the years in the wilderness. You remembered? I remembered everything, Dad. Noah's voice softens. The good stuff. Anyway, the stuff Mom tried to make me forget. I pull him into a hug. This gangly 16-year-old who's almost as tall as me now. This boy who I missed so much during those lost years. I love you, Dad. I love you too, buddy. More than you'll ever know. We sit down here to breakfast. The sun streams through the windows and life, my new life, my second chance, my unexpected blessing continues.